Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Ursa and I'm coming to you with the first of two update videos. That's right, myself and many other content creators that cover Civilization may have been a little bit quiet on the Civ 7 front for the last few weeks, and I'm sure you know why. If you don't know why, you probably will after the end of this video. But Firaxis have kindly given me sneak peek access to the upcoming couple of updates, and we're going to go through them now. Today's update is about the test of time, and we're going to float a little bit about tomorrow's patch, but tomorrow's video will go into that in more detail. Now, I know there's been a lot of update videos on Civ 7, but trust me, the updates we're about to discuss are significantly higher in magnitude than any other patch we've really seen before. Certainly, I'm sure there would have been a lot of people either involved in the recent testing or aware of it through places like Reddit and Discord. There's a lot moving in the background, and I can reveal a little bit about it today. I do say a little bit. There is quite a lot of material, especially about the playtest, that I just can't tell you right now, myself and everybody else. I covered under an NDA, we can't discuss the exact details of what went on, mainly because of the huge amount of subject to change, and there really is quite a lot of subject to change with a lot of the things going through right now. But if it's in this comprehensive update, which it is a comprehensive update, I can talk about it. So, without further ado, let's get reading the wise wisdom of Ed Beach, creative director of the Civilization franchise. For more than 30 years, Civilization has challenged players to build an empire to stand the test of time, offering rich strategic gameplay that has resonated with fans across the world. That includes many of us on the Firaxis development team who have devoted much of our lives to working on this legendary series. 1 year ago, has it really been a year? Blimey. We embarked on a bold new journey with the launch of Civilization 7. You can say that again. Our vision was to push the boundaries of the franchise, introducing new mechanics that offered a fresh perspective for our players. The most rewarding part of the past year has been spending it with you, our community. Aww. Your passion, your ideas, and your feedback have shaped how we think about Civilization 7 and continue to guide where we're taking this game next. And actually, that is a fairly decent point. There is a lot of community engagement going on right now, which is a very, very different and new avenue the game has been taking, and one I welcome a lot. As we look ahead, we're committed to building on that foundation and weaving what we've heard directly into the game's DNA. So Civ 7 keeps growing into something that feels great for Deity veterans and new players alike. It's funny that that pops up. I am in a rather luxurious position as a content creator for Civilization. I get to talk with the developers, and I know quite a few of them fairly well. One of the things that comes up a lot when creative forces, video creators like myself, give feedback about the game is remember that this game isn't just for Deity players. It's something that we hear quite a bit. There's this assumption that because I obviously play this game quite a bit and I play it on Deity, that sometimes I might forget that some people don't play on Deity, and I do find that rather cute, but it is a fair point. We're excited to build the future of Civilization 7 together, and now we're ready to share a bit about where it's going next. So this is a little bit on tomorrow's video, but update 1.3.2 is coming soon. As of the time of speaking, and it should be, hopefully if we get this video up, this patch should be going up tomorrow. That is Tuesday, the 3rd of February. This update brings a mix of gameplay improvements and quality of life upgrades across the board. To kick things off, we've begun rolling out nested tooltips. Nested tooltips. These can now be found throughout production menus and the tech and civics trees, making it much easier to find the information you need when building your empire. It is a big improvement. It is a work in progress. There is more to come on this, but it is a good start. We're not talking paradox levels of nested within nested within nested, okay? Don't get too excited about that. It's simply an extension of some of the menus that we can see. This is just a start, and we intend to incorporate more nested tooltips in future updates. Well, there you go. That's sort of what I was saying. On the gameplay side, our balance pass continues for a few more civilizations, including including a French Empire rework, a buff to Vietnam, a rebalance of the Mughal Empire. This is a really interesting one actually, and a fix for the Shawnee. You'll find the specifics in the patch notes when they release. We're also deploying a set of targeted system updates. First, AI diplomacy bias have been adjusted to better align AI behavior with each civilization's intended personality, meaning more consistent interactions that feel in keeping with each civ. Basically, leaders and civs be a little bit more unique, and they're doing a little bit more unique things that is consistent between games. It should be less of a vanilla approach to, oh, it doesn't really matter who I'm interacting with here. Confucius, Isabella, Boulevard, they're all going to treat with you differently, or at least more differently than they were. Second, coastal raids have been reworked to function more like naval pillaging, so these fall more in line with the new systems we've introduced over the last couple of updates. Good changes there. And third, we're introducing a new appeal lens that lets you instantly see how appealing any tile is, letting you know exactly where to build to net more happiness. There's a little bit of a spoiler as to what's coming next. The new lens also supports the differentiation between charming and breathtaking levels of appeal. Breathtaking tiles are even more powerful sources of happiness. And because it's our anniversary, we've got a few fun surprises coming with 1.3.2. To celebrate 1 year of Civilization 7, we're welcoming back your favorite ally, the legendary demigod of Uruk, Gilgamesh. He is free for all players as a thank you from us to the community, along with a badge. So he is free for everyone. We're going to talk about him in detail tomorrow, but Gilgamesh is back, looking very different. Oh my, he be a hairy boy. He's also beautifully smug in game. I'll talk about it more tomorrow, but oh my lord. Right, the main event, introducing the Test of Time update. And I think this is the big meat of this particular note, and is what we can really discuss in detail the most. At the end of last year, we announced that we were working on longer lead design plans that have major implications for Civilization 7. As part of that announcement, we also mentioned that we wanted to invite the community to playtest these features through our new Firaxis Feature Workshop initiative. That's a mouthful. So we can receive and reiterate on player feedback. Iterate, not reiterate. You've got to iterate first, haven't you? Maybe they'll iterate and reiterate before it goes live for all players. We've been careful about sharing specifics while things are still in motion, but now, having just wrapped the first round of community playtesting, it feels like a good moment to open things up. And yeah, this is something that has been keeping a lot of us busy. Now, as a content creator, I have not been able to film or talk about this playtest in any detail at all. In fact, none of the creators have, and there's been a fair few comments that I've seen going, oh, Ursa's abandoned Civ 7. There is a reason why. I've just been playing it in the background. I've played a good couple of games. It was really, really fun. The build that we were playing has a lot of features that are very different, and it was an incredibly comprehensive update. And I think this is something I really do want to clarify. We've seen a lot of things that aren't necessarily going to be announced for a little bit, and a lot of it was work in progress, which is why a lot of it has been kept wrapped up. But there are some fundamentally huge changes going. The Test of Time obviously is the one we'll be talking about today. And I have a feeling it's going to scratch an itch for quite a number of people who have had concerns about the game thus far. Not everyone. This is either going to be an issue for you that means a lot, or an issue that has not meant at all anything for you up until this point. So, you know, hit and miss on that. But the scope of the playtest was comprehensive. When I played a game on this playtest, it felt like a totally different game. And whilst I can't talk about the specifics, I was very impressed. It is a lot of optimism that a lot of people who have played this playtest are feeling. Alrighty, details. There are 3 major feature evolutions in the works. We are introducing optionality to play as one civ continuously through all the ages. That's right, you no longer have to switch civs. We're significantly reworking how victories are achieved. Victories are all totally different now, and we're completely replacing legacy paths with a new system called triumphs. Together, the these updates are similar in scope to an expansion in terms of gameplay systems and functionality, and will fundamentally change the way Civilization 7 feels and plays from start to finish. We plan to ship these features together in a single, massive 3 update that we're calling Test of Time. We are tentatively aiming for the Test of Time update to launch this spring. Big disclaimer, the devs do want to point out that that is a big maybe. It depends not only on the size of the update, but how much feedback they receive during these playtests that things need to get tweaked further. Certainly a lot of the stuff we played, there was a lot of feedback that maybe is refining or pushing this system into things the devs weren't expecting. And the longer these playtests go on for, I think the higher quality of the product, but you might find the deadline pushes back a bit. But I think there is a really interesting thing in here. I can confirm that the Test of Time update will be the equivalent to a full-blooded expansion pack. Think Gods of Kings in Civ 5, think Rise and Fall with Civilization 6. These were all paid expansions that fundamentally added new systems into the game and changed how things work. I mean, if you think back to Civ 6, when the game launched initially, Loyalty and Governors were the first major DLC, and that fundamentally changed how the game played. This will be 3. The devs have acknowledged that the first major update of the game should go to everybody who's bought the game, and I do applaud that. I think that is a hugely positive step. It means that nobody's got to buy it. If you own Civ 7, you will have this update. Playing as the same Civ through all the ages. First, let's dig into the biggest change we're testing in the Firaxis Feature Workshop. I'm never going to find that easy to say. And one of the most requested community features, the ability to play as one civilization throughout the whole game. With Civ 7, our goal has always been to deliver a more dynamic empire building experience, where your civilization evolves and reinvents itself over time. That said, we also heard loud and clear that many players want to lead a single civilization from its early beginnings to an advanced empire, because I want to play America in 4000 BC. I want to build the pyramids as America. I want to conquer the Netherlands in 2000 BC with planes, because it's a historical experience. I'm winding you up. I understand exactly why people wanted to stay as one civilization, and it is a thing now. Now you can do it. In the Test of Time update, you'll be able to start a game with any civ from any age. So you can start with a modern civ, an ancient civ, or an exploration civ. There's now a new choice to make during the age transition progress. Select a new civ, as you do today, or continue playing the same civilization into the next age. AI opponents will follow the player's lead here, either remaining as a single civ or switching to a new one in corresponding fashion. So whatever you do, they'll do as well. To be clear, this is not a new game mode. Continuing as the same civ or choosing to switch will be entirely at your discretion. Whatever feels best for your strategic and storytelling needs at that moment in time. So the choice is entirely down to you. Now, there are some rules which I think are going to be explained a little bit below as to where you can pick and the order in which you can pick, but by and large, it is your choice. You can play any civ at any time. You could play, for instance, America or France or Japan in antiquity, or you could play Rome right through to the end of the game. To do this, we're introducing some new concepts to Civ 7 to make playing any civ in any age possible. Let's step through an example of how these new concepts work. We begin a game as Rome in antiquity. Because this is the age in which Rome was at the height of its power, and the default age that you can play Rome in Civ 7 today, this is Rome's apex age. Remember this term, apex age. That basically means the Civ is being played in the correct age. The sole age where the Civ gets its full unique kit. Every Civ will have a single apex age through a full Civ 7 campaign, so nothing is different there. Upon transitioning from antiquity to exploration, let's say you decide to continue playing as Rome instead of selecting a different Civ to represent your empire. Civs played outside of their apex age retain a core defining part of their kit and gain a new age-appropriate civic tree. In our example, this tree includes a unique node, Roman Renaissance, that lets you optionally unlock more age-appropriate Roman perks, as well as 2 nodes based on your Civ's attributes. In Rome's case, that's cultural and militaristic. These attribute nodes are common for all Civs outside of the apex age, providing perks that are relevant for the current age's mechanics. Now, again, again, this is all incredibly subject to change, and I can't show you any specifics here. But there are a few things to pick up on. Every civ has 2 economic attributes, and you will have seen these loosely discussed in the civs when they release. Rome is a cultural and militaristic civ. That means if you play Rome outside of the Apex age, they will have a cultural and a militaristic civic pathway. And that cultural and militaristic pathway will be the same for every other civ that is cultural or militaristic. So there is a little bit of sameness here. As things currently stand, there are 6 different paths that a civ can take if it is not in its Apex age, and they all blend together other than that. However, the abilities are pretty cool. Some are interesting and some are downright overpowered. But it's important to note this bit, the Roman Renaissance. Now, what they're referring to effectively is the civic tree looks a little bit like a triangle. You have one choice that goes into 2. Every civ will have a unique civic outside of their Apex age, and fundamentally what this does is it updates their ability and traditions to make it slightly more powerful or less powerful if you're using a civ early, but age appropriate. So for instance, with Roman Renaissance, it took Rome's ability, which is all about their traditions, our towns, culture on town centers, making culture when building legion, that sort of thing. It updated them. So it basically meant your traditions got updated as you went through the game. It was really cool. That will be unique. Every civ will have their own version of this. It's just then the 2 extra abilities that will blend between them. But that's not all. As a civ outside of its Apex age, you can further bolster your capabilities through a new system called, there are some difficult words in this patch, syncrotism. I think it's syncrotism. I'm sure I'm going to get that wrong, and I'm sure Americans say it differently. The ultimate tool for the strategic thinker. Syncrotism allows you to create all new builds by enabling you to study a mastery on your own unique civic node and adopt the unique units or unique infrastructure from another civilization currently in its Apex age. As Rome in the exploration age, for example, you may consider empowering your militaristic attributes by adopting the Spanish tertio to enhance Rome's infantry flanking strategy, or maybe instead Norman's Mott and Bailey to amass culture while providing defensive fortifications. You can choose the unique military or infrastructure from any associated civilization, but you can only do this once per age, so choose wisely. Now, in the playtest that we had, the limits of this were a little bit limited. It wasn't every civ in the game, but there were some really interesting options here. And it basically, you're vulturing, you're thieving. Like a tiny little civ raven, you're stealing things from other civs. And there are some limitations here. We did see that if you take a unique quarter, for instance, that for that civ would provide great people. I'm thinking Greece, Egypt are good examples. You don't get the great people. You can just build the unique quarter. And of course, some civs will use units better. If I was to take the Spanish tertio, I might find that playing Spain actually plays them better because a lot of the Spanish abilities will sync with them. Whereas Rome may be a little bit half-hearted in how they play. And I think this is definitely an area that they are going to be looking at. But the idea is cool. You sort of flavor your empire with just a little bit of a sprinkling, a seasoning of another civ. Yes, okay, I normally would have gone Rome into Spain, but now I stay as Rome with just a little bit of Spanish influence. It's cool. The options were quite considerable, and I think we're going to see some really, really funny combos. But it's worth noting there was that line. Associated civilization, there was a little bit of a limitation to which units you could steal, and it was all about who unlocks who, what leaders you're playing. I think that's going to get ironed out a little bit, but it's not a whole free-for-all. It reminded me a little bit like the Civ transition system, where some things are automatically unlocked and some things aren't. This Rome example, of course, would extend into the modern age. It's also important to note that you can start a game in antiquity with a civilization from any age, including civs that today are unique to exploration or modern ages. The same rules apply backwards in time, and I did try it both ways. It works well. The hopeful result of these updates is that the options are in your hands. You can play Rome or any other civ for every turn, making strategic, adaptive choices through a full campaign. Or you can embrace the dramatic shift of playing a new Civ when it suits your strategy or empire's story. This is one of the big systems that they were gathering feedback on. And oh boy, feedback it received. This is probably the widest discussed aspect to the Test of Time update, and by and large, it went down really, really well. And I think the main thing to consider, and a lot of what Reddit is a good example, a lot of the conversations I've seen on Reddit recently are engaging around the fact that whether or not it was actually Civ switching that was the thing that was causing people to not play Civ. For some people, it was a deal breaker. You want immersion, or you want to be able to literally play a Civ from turn 1 to the end of the game like you have done on other Civs. You don't want to play Humankind. We've heard it all before. But a lot of people also mentioned that it wasn't quite scratching the problem. The problem more was a large age transition. It was a slightly lurching feeling from going from one age to another. And I think this is why this update is so interesting, because the way they've done it, they haven't just left you with a Civ and then that Civ doesn't do anything outside of their own ages, like we have seen in every other Civ. Think about Civ 6. I'm playing Canada. Canada has mounties that aren't useful until the end of the game. Actually, Canada's a bad example because they have abilities that do go from turn 1. Who's a late game Civ that doesn't do anything until the end of the game? France. France is a good example in Civ 6. The Chateau doesn't kick in for ages and their abilities stem from wonders in the middle of the game. That's what they wanted to avoid. They didn't want you to be in a position where Civs were useless for segments of the game. Sure, there is an apex age that they are better with, but this whole syncretism scheme makes it so that you've got interesting options no matter what part of the game you're in. So that's really good. It's worth mentioning though that ages are still a thing, and there still is an age transition. If you found the age transitions as a mechanic clunky, they're not going anywhere. They are staying put, and they are still as important as ever. Personally, I saw a lot of feedback, my own included, that it made the age transition a lot smoother. So there's a lot to be excited about. Will it be the fix that everyone needs? No, I don't think it will. I think if you liked the game anyway, you'll love it. I think if you're on the fence, this probably will push you more towards liking it. And if you really hate it because you've always hated it, I don't think that's going to change. So what can Firaxis do to pull you back in? We're going to talk about the next thing, victory changes. Since launch, many players have expressed that Civ 7 doesn't quite deliver the feeling of infinite possibilities and high replayability. Oh, replayability. This was the thing that I've been talking about on my patch videos for a year now. Of everything that I want to see in the game, and I do come about this from a slightly weird place because obviously Civ is literally my job. I play it more than most. I want a game that is replayable. It is repeatable. It is different every time. So this was important for me. To address this, we have completely reworked how victories are achieved. This new design puts victories front and center from the start, requiring you to establish clear, undeniable dominance in one of 4 categories: military, economy, culture, or science. You can make progress towards any victory starting in antiquity, and if you're really ahead, you can now win as early as the exploration age. And here we go. We can see just a little screenshot. Obviously, this is flagged as work in progress, but you can see we've got military, cultural, economic, and scientific. It looks very similar to the legacy path system we had before, but this replaces it. So no more legacy paths at all. No more gaining 12 points of cities and settlements in antiquity. No more getting relics in exploration. No more competing ideologies in modern. This is the system that replaces it. Military, dominate the world by controlling the most settlements. Cultural, drive the world's culture through tourism. Economic, build the world's biggest economy by controlling and utilizing resources. And scientific, win the space race by developing mathematics and space technology. Importantly, victory can be achieved through participating in a wide range of different activities rather than completing the static requirements of a single legacy path. The cultural victory, for example, can be achieved through a combination of constructing wonders, displaying great works, having natural wonders in your empire, earning celebrations, and more. The economic victory, on the other hand, requires having the strongest economy measured by assigned resources, gold buildings, factories, victories and unloaded treasure convoy cargo. For a military victory, it's all about controlling and conquering settlements. As for the scientific victory, it remains an epic space race where every major scientific milestone contributes to being the first to launch a mission into space. There is a lot going on here. What you need to know is this. You have a score in all 4 categories. There are multiple ways of getting score for each category. In antiquity, it starts pretty much consistently. Just do things, get score. So we've already mentioned the cultural. If you build a wonder, you get score. If you build and claim a natural wonder, you get score. And you leave antiquity with a ability or an amount of points in each legacy. When you go to exploration, it begins to change up. Now, as you go through the game, you get more and more points for things. Things you do towards the tail end of the game have more impact than things you do at the beginning of the game. That's pretty consistent to every single civ that has happened before. But what now happens is you have the ability to win the game, and there are different tiers of victory. They go from fundamental, overwhelming victories, where I can't remember the exact details. Again, this is all subject to change. But it was along the lines of if you've got 9 times the amount of score as the next player, and you're before 50% age completion in exploration, you win the game. So you really do have to be very, very far ahead. But then as the age and the game goes through, it gets easier and easier. So between like 50 and 75% of the way through the age, you only need to be 8 times the score. And then towards the end of the age, you need to be 7 times the score. And so far and so on. As you go through into the modern age, the criteria to win gets easier and easier and easier. And the points you're dishing out get higher and higher. So eventually, if you focus on your victory enough, you win the game. I liked it. I thought this was a really interesting concept. There's a lot to be changed and tweaked because I think the values assigned for certain things were a little bit out of whack. Some of the victories felt a lot more fleshed out than others. And I think the ability to keep you engaged throughout the age needs to be helped with a little bit more of an overhaul on UI, making the information a bit clearer and making the whole process a bit more engaged. But it was a huge, and I do mean huge, improvement on the legacy path system, especially because all of the old legacy paths did feature in the victory trees. They all gave you points. But that is a huge change. You can now win the game in exploration, and there is one victory you are focused on throughout the entire game, and every single age contributes to it. So before, where people thought the age transition was a little bit clunky because the previous ages just didn't matter, well, now they do. You can win the game in earlier ages, and the things you do in antiquity have a direct impact on the score you have later on. Now, those changes are very much entwined in legacy paths and triumphs. And it's weird to say, but I think this change, out of everything we've talked about so far, felt like it had the biggest impact on actually playing the game. Even though it's not the biggest in terms of the requests that were made, this feels very different. Finally, let's talk about legacy paths. A major piece of feedback that has been that legacy paths made Civilization 7 feel too rigid, or as many of our players put it, railroady. Personally, I think any game that involves railroads is a good game, and I approve of all railroad related games, but I am weird. We've listened to that feedback and have completely removed legacy paths, replacing them with an entirely new system called triumphs. Unlike legacy paths, triumphs do not dictate your strategic approach. Instead, they offer a wide range of optional, challenging objectives to help make each game feel unique. I think this is definitely subject to change. One of the pieces of feedback I saw was that if you play the game on deity, these were not challenging, and if you were new to the game, they were very challenging. So I think they've got to pitch it just a little differently, but it's really interesting. Triumphs are tied to each of the 6 attributes: military, cultural, scientific, economic, diplomatic, and expansionist. You'll trigger some triumphs through normal, strong play, like reaching 200 population or being the first to build a university, while others have you veer into a less traveled path, such as being at war with every other player or aggressively claiming the most natural wonders. Triumphs reward you with either an instant bonus for your empire or a card that can be used at the start of the next stage to strategically shape your play. And we're going to zoom in just a little bit on this that they've provided. You can see that, just hidden behind my beautiful mug, coming soon. Some of them weren't finalized when we saw them, but effectively everything is split between major and minor triumphs. You'll note that because we don't have legacy paths anymore, the age transition is very different. You haven't built up the most of 3 points in all 4 of the categories, and you can't be spending them on things like attribute points, taking golden ages, taking dark ages. That whole age transition system has been totally replaced now. It's gone. Instead, major triumphs unlock dedications that you take on age transition. So if you do a major triumph, you don't get anything in that age. You get it in the next stage, and you can choose up to 3. For instance, if you build 7 wonders, you can get +4 culture on wonders. Slot 12 policies or traditions, and you get culture for every policy or tradition slotted. Become suzerain of 5 city-states, and you gain influence towards befriending them. It was an interesting system. I think one of the pieces of feedback I saw on it consistently was that you end up with way more dedications than you can actually use. You can only select 3. So there was an argument as to whether or not major triumphs were actually giving you enough reward for the trouble of going into them, because some are really, really weird. Like, imagine this: League of Legendary Friends, be allied with everyone in the homelands. That's really tough. And some were just very easy. Have 6 altars. So which do you pick? But much more successful was the minor triumphs. We don't have any to show off here, but a minor triumph receives an instant bonus. We saw a couple mentioned there. I saw one in Antiquity where if you settled the most natural wonders, every natural wonder tile instantly gained food. And it was amazing. I wish I'd been playing Isabella. There were some that gave you 3 settlers. There were some that gave you attribute points. There were some that gave you gold. It was an amazing system. It felt a little bit like the Civ 6 Eureka and Inspiration system, where you did something, you got an instant reward. The reward was much more varied. I think between now and the launch of the Test of Time update, major triumphs are going to look nothing like that. That is my prediction. I don't think we're going to see anything like this for major triumphs, but minor triumphs was a hit. I think this was a real win. Test of Time update has been absolutely massive and has been informed entirely by community feedback. This has been a months-long labor of love for the team, and we can't wait for you to get your hands on this 3 update when it launches in the coming months. This is all subject to change, and I do need to repeat that. I don't want to make it sound like I'm really overly praising here, but the test was massive in scope. It felt like an entirely different game. And I saw a piece of feedback that I really, really agreed with, which was, it's going to be really, really hard for me to go back to Civ 7 now and film a game because I can't use these abilities anymore. It's frustrating. It was such an improvement. It really felt like a big leap forward for Civ 7, and it's going to be painful playing on the old patch knowing what could be, but it's exciting. It's exciting because of that. And a few surprises. Civ has an official Discord where they are rolling out giveaways. It's a cool Discord, but it's not the coolest Civ Discord, is it? No, it's not. You know the one called Turd. They have a plushie on the way. Civ 7 Arcade is coming out. I'll be honest with you, I still don't entirely understand what that is, but if you are an iPhone or iPad user, let me know. And then we've got some background videos from the audio team and how they made the Civ score, which I think is really cool. Now, as mentioned, tomorrow we're going to be going through patch 1.3.2 in more detail, which is more of information about the changes that you are going to see from tomorrow. All of this information with the Test of Time update will not be until my estimation. If they get out in May, I think they're going to be doing good. I would be very grateful if we saw it in the first half of the year, so by the end of June, but we'll see. Maybe they'll rush it through. I don't know. Comprehensive in scope. Let me know in the comments, what aspects of this are you most excited by? Is there anything you think they need to address further? Or is there anything here that causes you but a mite of concern? I know that in the feedback I gave after the playtest, there were areas that I think needed big improvement, but the overall sea change, the direction of the tide, Civ 7 seems to have a tailwind. And I, for one, am very optimistic about what is coming. So yeah, there hasn't been any Civ 7 content for a couple of weeks. Now you know why. More videos to come soon. I've been Ursa. I'll probably see you tomorrow with the next patch video. Until then, goodbye.